Ever wondered how to make those nostalgic, neon-drenched synthwave tracks? Today I'm going to show you how to create an 80s inspired synthwave song in Ableton Live, using stock devices, instruments and effects. No third-party plugins, no expensive gear, just Ableton and creativity. If you like this video, drop a like and subscribe for more synthwave contents. The complete Ableton project template, composition and samples are available on my Patreon page. Links in the description. First, let's set the foundation of our track. I'll set this specific project to 80 BPM. Next, let's pick a key. Minor keys work best for that nostalgic and emotional sound, so I'll go with C Dorian. Now let's start building the core element of our track, beginning with bass. A solid bass line is the backbone of any synthwave track. We want something deep, warm and slightly detuned. I'll start by selecting a saw wave for this first oscillator. Then, let's add a custom kick waveform for the second oscillator. I choose the Kick 90s 3-wave from the library. We're also going to activate the sub oscillator and give it a gain of minus 7.7 dB. The filter will only be active for the first oscillator and the frequency knob will be automated in the arrangement timeline to add dynamic to the composition. The resonance knob will be set at 15%. Here are the attack, decay, sustain and release settings for the amp section. Here are the attack, decay, sustain and release for the envelope 2. We will make use of the envelope 2 in order to shape the filter 1 frequency each time a node is triggered. We will also activate the unison mode to provide a fuller sound to our bass. Next, let's make use of the utility effect to convert the frequencies below 170 Hz to mono mode. It's always great to have the sub bass right in the middle out of the composition. Adding a simple EQ8 module next will cut the high frequencies from the mix. Finally, let's add a saturator effect with a gain of 2.3 dBs. I always make heavy use of the saturator to add bite and attitude to each track. Now let's bring in the drums. I will load some classic 505, 707 and 808 samples from the Ableton's drum rack. Synthwave drums are all about big snares, punchy kicks and crisp hi-hats. I made use of the drum rack instrument to add essentially 3 samples, 2 synchronized kicks and a snare. Both kicks only have a glue compressor each. These are the settings for the snare sample. Glue compressor plus saturator plus a club reverb with 37% wet signal. Let's mix with the bass. Next step is adding a new track with specific Simon's drums samples that I consider essential to make transitions and build-ups on Synthwave. The third track is loaded with 4 Simon samples that I provided with my Patreon page. Snare, tom, tom 3 and tom 4. Whenever I make a transition with those 80s flavored Simon's toms, I will also add the snare sample. It gives so much identity to the whole style. Next step in this percussion chapter is adding extra percussion elements to the rhythm section such as Rim 505, some tambourine wood soft hits, 2 layered hi-hat 606 and 808 samples, and finally an 808 clap drenched with lots of reverb. This is followed by a simple loop of tambourine composition, also available on Ableton's Chord library and reduced to only one measure in the clip settings. Finally, some inverted crash cross-faded with the uninverted sample to create lush transitions between sections. The sample is also available in the Ableton's Chord library. Next, we need some fast attack FM flavored patch, like if we were on a Chord M1 or Yamaha DX7 device. This will be the first of 2 layers, representing the synth pad section of this song. Those pads will fill up the space and give the track atmosphere. I made use of an electric module with a Rhodes Mark II bright patch and tweaked it just a little in order to achieve this tone. Then, to model the track and give it that 80s touch, we will add a more digital age sound to this bass by adding EQ, chorus ensemble, saturator and hall reverb with these settings. I made 2 progressions for this song, one for section A and other for section B. Here are my chord progression from low to high notes. Now for the section B. The second layer of the chord section will be filled with the similar chord progressions as we did in the previous step, with slight changes to fill up the harmony perfectly. This pad will not be excessively atmospheric, but instead will have some attack, presence and attitude, not trying to emulate the multi-layered modern pads, but instead recreating the limited resource retro device pads such as the Prophet or Juno. We'll make use of Ableton's analog instrument by dragging a Sherry pad preset available in the Chord library. As we can see, we are using 2 oscillators and the filters are deactivated. The most important part is to give a fast soft attack to the sound on both oscillators in the amp section. Finally, we'll add 25% detune to the whole patch. Next, we automate an auto filter to add and remove the chord pad presence in the mix. Here, I think it is the main part of this track, the one section that gives it the most character and depth. A well-thought arpeggiator composition, carefully chosen by the right notes. We will use Ableton's tension as our synth this time. Let's adopt a preset called Lift Delay Pluck and tweak it to our taste. Here are the string section settings. Here are the filter global section settings with 4 voices unison included. Let's add the chorus, some EQ and scope it in the mid and high range, cutting the lows not to interfere with the bass section. Saturation, adding some compression, reverb, and finally delay in this specific order. I always love to add some nice Moogie style lead. Let's make one. For the lead one, I grouped one wavetable synth plus one operator synth. Starting with layer 1, the wavetable synth. Here are the settings for the wavetable's 2 oscillator sections. The filter frequency is controlled by the LFO1 and assigned in the matrix section. Heading up to the layer 2, the operator synth. I am using only the A oscillator in parallel mode. These are the oscillator settings. These are the envelope settings. And these are the filter settings that I'm using. In the transpose section, these are the settings. One key aspect is that I'm using the glide to model the transition between the notes. Finally, the algorithm section is set like this, where I route the note on velocity routed to the filter frequency, as well as the key press is also routed to the same parameter, but in a higher percentage. Let's add a limiter and a saturator to spice up the operator timbre. Delay and reverb outside of the instrument rack group to glue it all together. The second lead element complements the Moogie one by adding chimes and bells FM digital lead, more in the style of the Korg M1 era. I think they combine and are great to alternate each other. This is a chimes bow and pad patch from the operator core library. We have 3 layers of synth. Layer 1, fast attack chimes like the ones we all know from the DX7 unit. Layer 2, wavetable with only one oscillator, reaching for a Roland Juno style sound to be assumed as a subtle pad layer inside the group. Finally, layer 3, analog device synth with a 5th pad patch from the analog core library to beef up the Juno layer 2 a little bit more and add some richness to the timbre and harmonics. Finally, we're going to add the last track. I recorded a sample made in my Behringer Crave, simulating a scream synth, drenched in lots of reverb to give depth and intensity to the final track section. This sample was recorded in a previous Ableton session rendered with stock arena reverb only. Here's the full synthwave beat we just made. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment below with your own synthwave creations. Thank you so much for watching and take care.